I was thinking about the sort of neo-Hobbesian narrative that I argue against in Civilized to Death, this idea that nature is cruel and vicious and brutal, and that there's all this suffering and pain and it's horrible, and that civilization saves us from that, and thank God for that. And so that's sort of the underlying premise of the justification for so much of the horror of civilization, the slavery and the pollution and the destruction and the disrespect and the absence of the sacred and all the rest of it. At least it's saving us from that cruel, horrible natural world that we came from. And, there are a lot of holes in that argument, which I take a certain amount of glee in pointing out in Civilized to Death and elsewhere, as you've heard. But I was thinking about how I saw this documentary. I don't remember. I've probably seen it 100 times, but there's a scene of a predator, a lion, let's say, catches the antelope and, bites its neck, and, he's got it, and the antelope's dying. And the first thing is, and I actually wrote about this in Civilized to Death, I found an entry from a journal of an explorer who had a lion jump on him and bite his head and like throw him around, and somehow he survived it. And he described the feeling of being in the clutches of that lion and feeling certain that he was dying. And the feeling was that it was a sort of ecstasy. It was sort of a how did he put it? It was like a dream state. He knew he was dying. He knew exactly what was happening. He saw everything that was happening, but he didn't really care. And it was just like, okay, whatever, that's fine. And he just went with it and felt some sort of deep appropriateness. And of course, from our modern mechanistic scientific perspective, we say, well, the endorphins were released because, animals have this endorphin release when they're in the clutches of a predator, and that allows them to die in peace, which is a pretty fucking cool thing when you think about it. That, if nature's so fucking cruel, how did it design the release of endorphins in the brain when the lion catches you? That's not necessary. Why is that necessary? Who's, it's not like you're going to survive and breed more if you release endorphins. There's no evolutionary argument that I can understand for that particular characteristic. Anyway, but on the other side, the predator, must be feeling this like, vicious, I'm a fucking killer, die, fucking antelope. But what struck me in these documentaries, the image that I have in my head, that I've held in my head for years, that's always sort of bothered me, was this lion with the freshly killed antelope there, and the lion kind of nuzzles it and licks it. Not where the blood is. It hasn't broken its skin yet, but it's sort of nuzzling and licking it the way it licks its cubs. There's like an affection there. And it creeped me out because it's like, you just killed this thing. And now you're kissing it. It's some kind of like sick psychopath kind of reaction. Something dark. But then it occurred to me, maybe it's love. Maybe what the predator is feeling, and the reason it has this behavior that's associated with love, is that's the predator's not feeling glee in the kill. It's not feeling bloodlust. It's feeling the same thing I feel when I come back from a long hike and I sit down and somebody brings me a hot pizza and a cold beer. Oh, yeah. this is what I need. I'm going to live another day. I'm going to feel so good as I eat this and drink that. Why is it so strange to me that a lion feels gratitude and affection and happiness when she knows she's going to eat, and her babies are going to eat, and her friends are going to eat? Why have I always been creeped out by that? Because the culture has told me that that is a scene of cruelty and despair and destruction and viciousness, when it seems to make so much more sense to see it in terms of the mercy of nature in giving that endorphin rush to the animal that's dying, and the gratitude and love of the predator. I think I've been reading it wrong all these years. I've been seeing it wrong because the culture's indoctrinated me to see viciousness when, in fact, that's a scene of love.